Evening, everybody. It's about 20 after 5, and for those that will be watching afterward, I want to do just a real brief video and talk to some of my people in the church, and also some of my local folks, just briefly about some of the goings on. I've had at least probably close to half a dozen people talk to me or question me about the idea of churches not meeting during this time of quarantine, kind of a lockdown, limited assembly situation, and wanted to know what some of my thoughts were. We took a little bit of heat, or at least I did, because our congregation met last Sunday. There were no restrictions on Alabamians last Sunday, and we have not gone against any of the laws or any thing of that nature. But we met last Sunday, and we met last Wednesday, again before the governor handed down the assembly restrictions. And the reason we did was our situation, like all situations, is unique, or at least it's different. Churches that were in larger cities, like in Jefferson County or Shelby County in Tennessee, or Davidson County, with people that perhaps work at for example, in Jefferson County, people maybe work at UAB or one of the big hospitals, people that work in the medical profession. We don't have anything like that here. We're a small congregation. We're about 75 all told. By last Wednesday, there wasn't a single case of COVID-19 coronavirus within 100 miles of us in just about any direction. And we're pretty much all local. We're homebodies. We don't have folks traveling out of town, etc. And so we decided to meet because we felt like we were fairly safe in so doing. On Thursday, the governor handed down a maximum of 25 in any assembly with a 6-foot spacing requirement. And so, at least for the time being, we've suspended all of our formal assemblies through April the 5th, which is the Sunday prior to the initial declaration expiration. I think everything was supposed to be lifted on April the 6th, although it could go longer. And so we've decided to not meet, and a lot of folks are concerned about that with congregations going to streaming services. Some are using a low-power FM device, which I think is a great idea, where you can drive up into the parking lot of the church building, not to meet, etc. But let me just say just a couple things. I'm not going to make this very long. Number one, this is not a situation like we saw in the New Testament where people were forbidden to worship because they were Christians or assemble. This is a general restriction. It's not targeting Christians. This is not an Acts 5:29 situation where we ought to obey God rather than men. Nobody is telling us we can't worship. We are free to worship wherever we are, as long as there's the intention and the proper practice. And so we're doing the best that we can under the circumstance. Even the king in 2 Kings 15 and verse 5, there was a king who had to live in an isolated house the rest of his days because the Lord struck him with leprosy. And I would ask the question, if you knew that someone in your congregation had a highly contagious and potentially deadly disease, would you expect them to stay home? Or would you expect them to be and expose the rest of the congregation? Of course, I think we know the answer to that question. The situation that we face right now is that people can carry this COVID-19 for days on end without having any symptoms. In fact, may never manifest symptoms of having the virus, and could yet still pass it, transmit it to another person, perhaps even an older person, someone with COPD, someone with a compromised immune system. And so if you knew somebody had a potentially deadly virus, you would expect them to stay home. And in this case, it's entirely possible to go days on end without any symptoms and still yet spread this virus to other people. And so this is just a matter of of common sense. It's a matter of respecting and loving your brethren. None of us would knowingly infect our brethren with a potentially deadly virus. Most people that have the virus are in extremely mild situations, according to what I found online. The vast majority of the 25,000 cases in the United States, only about 65 or 70 are considered serious at this time. And so, but I wouldn't want to be the one especially to unknowingly pass it to someone who may have a compromised immune system. And so it also, let me just kind of make mention, both of my grandparents were raised within 5 minutes of where I'm sitting here at the Burleson Church. And my grandparents talked to me. My grandpa was born in 1911 up here in the Buttahatchee community. And my grandma, if you get to the fork or the T in the road, Grandpa lived to the left, Grandma lived to the right, raised in what's called the Barn Creek community. And the flu made the rounds in the early 20th century between in the 19-teens or 1920s. And when a family got the flu, or when someone in a family got the flu in those days, the entire family quarantined themselves, because at that time the flu was extremely deadly to many, many people. And so the entire family would practice quarantine, which means they didn't go to church. They didn't go to the assembly. They didn't say, well, I feel fine, I'm going to go ahead and go. Knowing that they had been exposed to the virus, the flu virus, they stayed at home. And brethren would bring them food and leave it on the porch and set it on the front step and leave. There was no visiting or checking on folks in an extremely close proximity or a formal way. But folks still took care of one another as best they could without having to expose themselves to a potential deadly virus. And so this is like that. Again, this is not a we're not going to let the government tell us what we can and can't do. This is a matter of public health. I think the quarantine laws from Leviticus 13 and other passages in the Old Testament certainly give us some instructions in this respect. And so churches that choose to meet, that are, for example, in Alabama, 25 is the limit. If a congregation has fewer than 25 people and they want to meet and maintain the distance, they're certainly within their right to do so, and I'm not going to criticize them. And so, but just want to kind of give you some thoughts and some things about, folks have asked me about what are your thoughts about not meeting and trying to stream services. And look, if I thought, again, I'm not the authority, but I think I can stand on the Bible authority here. If I thought that it was potentially dangerous or particularly or deadly for us to meet, certainly I would not want to do that. And we're going to follow the instructions that have been set down. And if we ever decide at some future time that we want to go ahead and meet, we'll do it within the guidelines that have been set forth by the governor. We'll meet in 2 or 3 separate places. I'm not saying we're going to. I'm just saying if this thing is extended, then there's the chance that we might work within the guidelines. And let me also just say this in closing. There are some places that are limiting, some like in Texas, that are limiting assemblies to 10, some localities. We can get back to home church. We can get back to meeting in folks' homes in order to check on one another and worship together. I'm not suggesting it. I'm just simply saying there are some alternatives that were practiced for hundreds and thousands of years and even in recent history and still even around the world today, where we can assemble and worship God together in smaller units in our homes and in in a very limited, it'd be a limited way, but it certainly be something that could be helpful to us. So I hope this has been helpful to you. And if you have any questions, you can put them in the thread. Put them in the thread of this. I'll try to answer them, and or you can message me. But just want to share some thoughts with some folks since I've had so many questions, and I hope this has been helpful to you. We're going to start streaming tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. I'm going to stream a Bible class just like I normally would. I'm going to do it from here at the building to give it as much of a natural look as I can. And at 10 o'clock, we'll have about 25 minutes of Bible class. Then I'll reset everything so I can get up here on on the lectern and preach like I normally do. And we'll have some announcements, and we'll observe the Lord's Supper together, have some prayer, Bible reading, sermon, do the very best we can to do what we can without bringing anybody into undue danger or exposing anyone to potentially deadly virus. So join us at 10 o'clock in the morning Central Time. We'd be happy to have you join us. Also, for the Burleson folks, there will be some instructions on how to use the individual communion cups. If you have not received your cups, I think Jimmy delivered to all his folks today. I think everybody on my list is taken care of here at the building. So everybody that lives at Sugar Bend and in Hamilton out westward needs to pick up your communion cups at Lynn McWright's house, and we've got enough to cover every member for the next 3 Sundays. And so pick those up, and if for some reason Lynn runs out, we'll have some here. I'll have some here at the building that I have access to, and we'll get those to you. We'll also give you some more instructions on giving and how to do your contribution. In brief, those of us that use Tithely, nothing changes for us. Use the Tithely app. You can give online. Go to burlesonchurchofchrist.com. There's a link at the top that says online giving. A box opens up. It's a Tithely box. You don't have to log in. All you'll need is a blank check so that you can have your routing number and your account number. And you put your name, the amount that you want to give, put your bank routing number and your account number there, and you can give one time. Or you can also set up, I think you may also be able to set up a weekly giving through the online giving. And also, Philip and I will be at the fellowship building doing some work tomorrow from about 3 to 4 o'clock. If you want to bring your check, or if you give cash and you want to put it in an envelope, if you want to bring that to us between 3 and 4 o'clock tomorrow, we'll be here to receive it, and you can bring it to the building or bring it to the fellowship building between 3 and 4 o'clock. So you can download the Tithely app. It's TITHE.LY. You can type it in your search. You can find it, or you can give online and set up at burlesonchurchofchrist.com, or you can bring your contribution by the fellowship building tomorrow between 3 and 4. I hope you all have a great evening. Hope that if you're not meeting somewhere or streaming with your own church family, you'll join us tomorrow at 10 o'clock. We'll probably be finished up sometime before 11:30. And so until then, hope you have a great night, and spend some time with your loved ones, and spend some time reading the Word of God before tomorrow morning. Have a great night.